Before the story starts, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
The morning was quiet in a way that felt rare. The kind of quiet that makes people slow down without trying. The lake sat still, like glass. Soft sunlight touched the water, creating small reflections that moved with the breeze. Birds flew low, their wings cutting gently through the air. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt wrong. Near the edge of the lake, a man stood alone. He was not young, but not old either. He wore simple clothes. Nothing fancy. Nothing loud. In his hands was a fishing rod. Fishing was not about catching fish for him. It was about peace. It was about standing still while the world moved quietly around him. He checked his line slowly. He breathed in the fresh air. He looked across the water and smiled. This was his escape. He cast the line into the lake. The hook landed softly, barely making a sound. He pulled out a small folding chair and sat down. He waited. Time moved slowly. The water rippled gently. Everything felt right. But peace has a way of attracting trouble. From far behind him, the sound of fast footsteps broke the calm. Sharp. Heavy. Angry. The man did not notice at first. He was watching the water. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice exploded into the quiet morning. Hey! You can't do that. The birds scattered. The calm shattered. The man turned his head slowly. Behind him stood a woman. She looked furious. Her sunglasses sat firmly on her face. Her arms were crossed tight across her chest. Her body leaned forward like she was ready to attack with words. She did not greet him. She did not ask a question. She shouted. Fishing here is illegal. The man stood up calmly. He did not match her energy. He did not raise his voice. Excuse me, he said gently. The woman stepped closer. I said it's illegal, she repeated. This lake is private. She pointed at the water. Then at him. The man looked around. There were no signs. No warnings. No fences. I believe this is public water, he said calmly. I have a fishing license. The woman laughed loudly. Not a friendly laugh. A laugh full of confidence and disrespect. License, she said. I don't care about your license. She pulled herself taller. I am HOA. She said it like a title. Like a weapon. I make the rules here, she continued. And fishing is not allowed. The man felt tension move through his chest, but his face stayed calm. I'm not trying to cause trouble, he said. I just came here to relax. That sentence made her angrier. Relax, she snapped. You are breaking the law. Her voice echoed across the lake. People walking nearby stopped. A man with a dog paused. A couple on a morning walk turned to watch. The woman pulled out her phone. She pointed the camera directly at the man. This is what happens, she said loudly. When people think rules don't apply to them. The man looked uncomfortable but stayed quiet. She moved the phone closer. Say it again, she demanded. Say you think you're allowed to fish here. The man did not respond. His silence frustrated her. Oh, so now you're quiet? She mocked. You know you're wrong. She turned the camera toward herself. I warned him, she said proudly. But he refuses to leave. The man slowly placed his fishing rod down. He took a deep breath. Ma'am, he said politely. Can you show me the rule? For a brief moment, she froze. Then she laughed again. I don't need to show you anything, she said. I am the rule. Her voice grew louder. This is HOA property, and I will not allow this. The crowd grew slightly larger now. Whispers moved through the air. I don't see a sign. Is it really illegal? He seems calm. The woman heard them. She turned sharply. Mind your business, she shouted. The man stayed still. I will wait, he said calmly. You can call whoever you want. That surprised her. She expected fear. She expected him to pack his things and leave. Instead, he waited. Her face twisted with anger. Oh, you'll wait? She said coldly. Good. She turned away and dialed her phone. I'm calling the authorities, she said loudly. You're about to learn a lesson. She walked a few steps away but kept pointing back at him. He's still here, she said into the phone. Yes, still fishing. She smiled. A confident smile. The man sat back down slowly. His heart beat faster now, but he trusted himself. He looked at the water again. The fishing line moved slightly. A small pull. He felt it. Around him, tension filled the air. People watched quietly. The woman ended the call and turned back. They're coming, she said proudly. And they won't be nice. She crossed her arms and waited. The man said nothing. He simply watched the lake. What the woman did not know was simple. HOA power has limits. And law does not bend to shouting. Somewhere nearby, someone official was already on duty. Someone who followed rules. Someone who did not care about titles. The lake stayed calm. The fisherman waited. The woman waited. And something big was about to arrive. This was only the beginning. The woman, her phone now tucked under her arm, walked back toward the lake with a slow, deliberate step. Every movement felt like she was marking her territory. She looked around, taking in the small crowd that had gathered. Some people were whispering. Some were curious. Some were already shaking their heads. But she didn't care. Confidence radiated from her in waves, arrogance, some might call it. The man stayed seated. He watched her approach. Calm. Unshaken. Almost as if he knew what was coming but wasn't afraid. You're still here, she demanded loudly, her voice cutting through the quiet morning. I told you the authorities are on their way. The man looked at her slowly, his expression neutral. That's fine, he said softly. I'm not breaking any rules. Her eyebrows shot up. Her mouth twisted in disbelief. Not breaking rules, she repeated sharply. I am the rule around here. She stepped closer. Too close. Her arms were crossed tightly, as if daring him to move. I am on the HOA board, she announced proudly, her voice carrying over the lake. This community follows MY rules. The man's eyes flicked around. No signs. No fences. No fishing warnings anywhere. I respect you, he said politely. But this lake is public water. I have a license. The woman's laughter rang out, harsh and mocking. A sound that made nearby birds fly away. License? HA, she scoffed. Rules are above that. I am HOA. I make the rules. Her hands went to her hips, and she leaned forward slightly, as if to emphasize her authority. A few of the onlookers in the crowd whispered to each other. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Some raised their phones, filming. The man took a slow breath. He remained calm. He did not shout. He did not respond with anger. I'm just here to fish, he said softly. That's all. The woman's eyes narrowed. Her lips pressed into a tight line. Her voice rose. Fishing? You're breaking the law, she shouted, pointing at him dramatically. You can't do whatever you want here. She pulled out her phone again, raising it to record him. Everyone needs to see this, she announced. This man thinks he's above HOA rules. The man watched silently. He didn't resist, didn't argue, didn't make a scene. Say it, she commanded, her tone sharp. Say you think fishing is allowed. He didn't move. He didn't speak. Her patience snapped. "Oh, so now you're quiet?" she yelled, her voice trembling with anger. "You know you're wrong." She turned the camera on herself. "This is what happens," she said loudly, "when people ignore community rules. I warned him, but he refuses to leave." The man, quietly, reached for his fishing license. "I have my license," he said calmly. "I'm allowed to fish here." She didn't even glance at it. "I don't need to see that," she shouted. "HOA rules are final." The man finally spoke, his voice steady. "Can you please show me the rule?" For a moment, her confident smile faltered. Then she laughed. "I don't need to show you anything," she said proudly. "I am the HOA. This is my community. And I decide what's allowed." Her gaze swept across the small crowd again. She wanted everyone to see her authority. Some whispered among themselves. "I didn't know she could be this bossy," one muttered. "She seems serious," another said. The woman pointed her finger toward the man. "You should be ashamed," she shouted. "You're taking advantage of our community. Breaking rules without permission." The man remained calm, hands resting on his knees. "I am following the law," he said softly. "I have permission from the state. I am not breaking any law." Her face contorted with rage. "This is ridiculous," she screamed. "You are not listening." She began to pace slowly in front of him. Her heels clicked on the gravel. Her voice bounced across the lake. "They think they can do whatever they want," she muttered, half to herself. "They think rules don't apply to them." She turned sharply to the small crowd. "See," she shouted. "This is what happens when people ignore the rules. They need to be taught a lesson." Her phone buzzed in her hand. She looked at it and smiled. "Good," she said, her voice full of false confidence. "They're close. Authorities will arrive soon." The man stayed seated, calm as ever. He watched her. He listened. He did not argue, did not shout, did not show fear. The woman straightened her jacket and adjusted her sunglasses. She looked powerful. Important. Untouchable. "Just watch and learn," she whispered to no one in particular. "This man will regret challenging me." The distant hum of a vehicle approached along the road. Faint. But real. The man heard it. He stayed calm. The woman smiled wider. "They're here," she said. "Finally. They'll deal with him." She stood tall, her hands on her hips, surveying the scene like a queen defending her throne. But she did not notice the subtle shift in the air. The quiet patience of the man, the calm determination in his eyes. The lake, still as glass, seemed to hold its breath. Something was coming. And it was bigger than her anger. Bigger than her HOA authority. Bigger than her confident claims. The man watched the lake. The woman watched him. The small crowd watched both of them. And somewhere, just out of view, the law was about to arrive. The lake stayed calm. The fishing line rested gently in the water. The morning sun reflected on the ripples, as if nature itself was holding its breath. This confrontation, loud, dramatic, full of anger, was only the beginning. And neither of them knew how far it would go. The morning air felt heavier now. Not because of the sun, not because of the lake. But because of the woman standing near the water, her chest heaving with anger. And the man sitting calmly, almost invisible in contrast. She had taken control of the scene, or at least, she thought she had. Her heels clicked against the gravel as she paced back and forth. Every word she spoke was loud, sharp, demanding attention. "You think you're clever, don't you?" she shouted, pointing a finger at him. "You think I won't stop you? That rules don't apply to you?" The man looked at her briefly. Then back at the calm, glassy surface of the lake. He did not flinch. He did not shout back. He simply waited. Her eyebrows knit together. "Do you hear me?" she yelled. "You cannot do this here. I am HOA, and I make the rules. The man's eyes followed the gentle ripple of the water. The hook floated silently, barely moving. He breathed slowly, deeply. Each exhale calm, measured. Her words hit the air like a storm, but he was the eye in the center, still, unshaken. The small crowd around them shifted. Whispers traveled quickly. He doesn't seem scared. Is she serious? Does she really think she can stop him? The woman spun sharply to face them. You see, she shouted. See how disrespectful he is? Breaking the rules without caring. The man finally spoke. His voice soft, polite, almost too gentle to believe in the middle of her fury. Ma'am, he said. Could you please show me the rule? For a second, her confident smile faltered. She blinked, unsure. Then she laughed loudly, forcing the sound to fill the air again. I don't need to show you anything, she snapped. I am HOA. I am authority here. And I say fishing is not allowed. She leaned forward, trying to intimidate him with her height and anger. But he stayed seated. Unmoving. Unafraid. A bird landed on a nearby branch, looking curiously at the commotion. The man glanced at it. The woman didn't notice. I warned you, she said loudly, turning to the crowd. They should see what happens when people ignore HOA rules. She lifted her phone, recording again. The authorities will deal with him, she shouted. He won't get away with this. The man reached into his pocket slowly. He pulled out his fishing license, showing it calmly to the camera. I have a license, he said softly. I'm allowed to fish here. The woman ignored him. She waved her hands, emphasizing her power. License? Ha! HOA rules are final. The man's calmness seemed to irritate her even more. She took a deep breath and shouted. Relax. You are breaking the law. Do you think you are above the rules? The fishing rod rested beside the man. The line barely moved. Yet every second of his calmness made the woman's rage grow. Her voice trembled now. People like you, she yelled, think they can do anything. They think rules don't apply. The man remained seated. Quiet. Watching. Waiting. The distant hum of an approaching vehicle reached their ears. The woman's ears perked up. They're almost here, she said confidently. They will see him breaking the rules. Her hands went to her hips again, her body puffed up with false authority. The crowd's attention shifted slightly. Some leaned forward, curious. Some whispered to each other. Why is he not afraid? Does she really have authority? The man stood slowly. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He simply adjusted his chair and prepared himself for what was coming. The woman's eyes flicked to the approaching vehicle in the distance. Her smile widened. Yes, she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. The authorities will deal with him. He'll regret this. But she did not notice the subtle shift. The calmness in the man's eyes. The way he had not raised his voice once. The way he had never flinched. The crowd noticed it. Some moved closer to get a better view. Some lowered their phones, thinking, why is he so composed? Why is she getting angrier by the second? The woman turned back to the man, her expression hardening. You will see what happens when people break the rules. He looked at her. No fear. No anger. Just patience. The vehicle grew closer. Its engine hummed steadily building. A ranger, unknown to both of them, was on his way. The man shifted slightly. His calm aura seemed to stretch outward, filling the space between them. The woman, however, was already planning her victory. Her phone continued recording. Her mind raced with imagined consequences for him. Just wait, she whispered under her breath. They won't let you get away with this. But the lake remained calm. The fishing line rested gently on the water. Ripples moved slowly, reflecting the morning sun. The man stayed seated. The woman fumed. The small crowd watched. And far down the road, the vehicle carrying the law approached steadily. The confrontation had reached its peak. Anger and calmness, authority and patience, were about to collide. The lake remained quiet. The man remained patient. The woman remained furious. The stage was set. And nothing would ever feel the same again. The distant hum of the vehicle grew louder. The small crowd's whispers turned into curious murmurs. All eyes turned toward the road. A green and white truck appeared, rolling slowly along the gravel path. Its official markings caught the sunlight. It was unmistakable. A park ranger had arrived. The woman's face lit up with triumph. Her shoulders straightened. She smiled with pride, certain that the man's quiet defiance would finally end. "They're here," she said loudly. "You'll see now." The man did not move. He simply observed. Calm. Still. Prepared. The truck stopped near the lake. The engine switched off. A moment of silence followed, broken only by the soft rustling of leaves. The ranger stepped out. Tall, composed, wearing a crisp uniform. His boots made soft thuds on the ground as he approached. He moved slowly, deliberately, scanning the scene with careful eyes. The woman rushed forward before the ranger could even take 2 steps. She practically ran, her phone still in hand, her voice loud and commanding. "Officer," she shouted. "Finally! Thank you for coming." She stood close to him, chest out, like a soldier presenting her victory. "This man is fishing illegally," she explained rapidly. "He refuses to leave, and he's breaking our community rules." The ranger lifted one hand in a calm gesture. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady and even. "Let me hear the situation first." The woman's confidence wavered for a split second, but she quickly straightened. "I'm HOA," she said proudly. "This is private property. He is not allowed here." The ranger tilted his head slightly, scanning the man and the surroundings. He remained silent, waiting for more. The man stayed seated, his fishing rod beside him, unmoving. His calm presence contrasted sharply with the woman's agitation. He did not argue. He did not shout. He simply waited. The woman, growing impatient, waved her hands dramatically. "Can't you see?" she demanded. "This man is breaking the rules." The ranger finally spoke, calmly but firmly. "Sir," he said to the fisherman, "can you explain what's happening here?" The man nodded. "I am fishing," he said. "I have a license. This is public water." The woman's lips tightened. She stepped closer, trying to assert dominance. "He's lying," she shouted. "You don't understand. This is our lake. I'm HOA." The ranger looked at her directly. "Do you have documents proving this lake is private?" he asked. Her confident smile faltered. I don't carry papers," she admitted. "I am the HOA." The ranger nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "But HOA rules do not override public law." The woman blinked, shocked. "But this is inside our community," she protested. "Surely, that gives us authority." The ranger shook his head. "No," he said. "Public water is public water. Anyone with a proper license may fish here." Whispers from the crowd grew louder. Heads turned. Some people smiled quietly. Some shook their heads in disbelief at the woman's sudden loss of control. She opened her mouth to argue again. But the ranger raised a hand. "Please, let him finish." The man spoke. "I tried to ask for the rule," he said calmly. "Show me where it says fishing is not allowed." The ranger looked at the woman. Her cheeks flushed. Her lips pressed tightly together. Her hands trembled slightly. "Sir," the ranger said gently, "you are in compliance with the law." The woman's shoulders dropped. Her confidence waned. Her voice became smaller. I was just protecting the community, she whispered. The ranger's voice stayed steady. Protecting the community does not give you the right to harass someone. Or to make false claims to authorities. That is serious. The crowd held its breath. Some gasped. Some nodded, realizing the situation had completely changed. The woman's hands went to her hips, but this time less sure, less forceful. She looked at the fisherman, and for the first time, there was uncertainty in her eyes. She looked at the people filming and saw their expressions. The admiration she expected for her authority had vanished. The ranger turned to the man. "You may continue fishing," he said politely. The man nodded. "Thank you," he said softly. The ranger took a final look at the woman. "You need to step back," he said firmly. "And do not interfere with him again." Her lips pressed tightly. Her eyes narrowed. Then she slowly stepped away. The crowd's attention shifted. The woman's dramatic display of power had been reduced to silence. The ranger watched her retreat. Then he turned toward the lake. The water reflected the morning light, calm and undisturbed. He looked at the fisherman one last time. "You handled that well," he said. "Calmness goes a long way." The fisherman smiled faintly. He picked up his fishing rod. The line touched the water with a soft splash. The ranger nodded, then walked back to his truck. The engine hummed. The tires crunched on the gravel as he drove away. The lake remained quiet. The fisherman stayed seated. The woman disappeared in the distance. Her footsteps fading, her authority gone. A few moments passed. The air felt lighter. The sunlight sparkled on the ripples. The birds returned to the trees. The man took a deep breath. He leaned forward slightly, feeling the gentle pull on his fishing line. A smile appeared. The crowd began to disperse. Some whispered about what they had seen. Some kept their phones in their pockets. Everyone seemed to understand something important. Calm, law-abiding patients had won. And somewhere, far down the road, the woman would have to reconsider her idea of power. For now, the lake was peaceful again. The fisherman had earned his morning. And the story was far from over. The air felt heavy, thick with tension. The woman's face, once so confident, was pale now. Her chest heaved slightly as she tried to collect herself. She had expected the ranger to take her side. She had expected power to protect her authority. But reality was shifting faster than she could handle. "That can't be right," she said, almost whispering. Her voice trembled, betraying her panic. "We pay for this area." The ranger remained calm. He did not raise his voice. His eyes were steady, scanning the scene like a careful judge. "Paying HOA fees does not make public land private," he said clearly, his words precise and heavy with truth. The woman blinked. Her lips pressed together. You don't understand," she stammered. "We have rules. Rules I enforce." The ranger's gaze stayed locked on her. "I understand rules," he said slowly. "But public law comes first. It does not bend to titles or opinions." The crowd shifted. Some people leaned in, trying to absorb the moment. Some whispered softly, "She's losing it. He's right." I can't believe she was so confident. The woman's hands trembled slightly. Her phone dangled loosely from her fingers. The recording still ran, capturing her embarrassment in vivid detail. The fisherman remained seated. Still calm. Silent. A quiet anchor amid the chaos. He didn't need to say anything, the truth was visible in every movement. The ranger stepped closer. His tone remained firm but fair. "Sir," he said, "have you caused any trouble here?" "No," the man replied calmly. "I have been quiet the entire time." The ranger turned to the woman. "And you, ma'am?" he asked. "Have you been harassed or threatened?" "No," she admitted, her voice smaller now. I was just doing my job. The ranger nodded slowly. Then consider this carefully, you stopped him without legal reason. You shouted, you recorded, and you falsely reported him. These are serious matters. Her eyes widened. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The words she had practiced to justify herself seemed useless now. You were protecting the community, she said softly, almost pleading. I thought I was right. The ranger shook his head. Thinking is not enough, he said firmly. Knowing the law is your responsibility. You cannot claim authority over someone who is following public law. The woman's hands went to her hips, but her posture slumped. The energy she had radiated moments ago had drained. She glanced at the crowd. Their faces were no longer supportive. Phones pointed at her now, recording not her power, but her defeat. The fisherman watched silently, feeling neither anger nor triumph. He simply observed as truth revealed itself, slowly, inevitably. Every pause, every subtle glance from the ranger, confirmed that calm patience had won over loud, misplaced authority. The ranger finally turned to the man. Sir, he said politely. You are allowed to continue fishing. The man nodded. Thank you, he said softly, his voice carrying no triumph, only relief. The ranger turned back to the woman one last time. You must step back and leave him alone, he said firmly. Do not harass him again. Do not call authorities falsely. Understand this clearly. Her shoulders dropped. Her confidence evaporated. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her throat felt tight, her hands weak. Slowly, she turned and began to retreat. Past the crowd, past the calm lake, past the fisherman. Each step she took was heavy. Her heels clicked softly against the gravel, but the sound carried far. She had entered the morning with power, with arrogance, with certainty. Now she walked away, humbled, quiet, defeated. The crowd's murmurs grew. Some shook their heads. Some whispered to each other. Calm wins. Law is stronger than power. He handled that so well. The man finally stood. He adjusted his chair, his fishing rod in hand. The lake remained still, but the tension that had filled the air seemed to settle, replaced with a sense of quiet justice. The ranger nodded to the fisherman. You handled this well, he said, a small smile breaking the serious tone. Patience, calmness, and knowing your rights, these are the tools that protect you. The man smiled faintly. I just wanted to fish, he said. The ranger's eyes swept the lake one last time. Some people think that shouting and titles give them power, he said softly. But respect, law, and calmness always carry more weight. The ranger returned to his truck. The engine hummed. The tires crunched over the gravel as he drove away. The morning returned to its natural rhythm. Birds returned to the trees. Ripples shimmered across the lake. Sunlight danced on the water. The fisherman leaned slightly forward. The line tugged gently. He smiled faintly. Patience had been rewarded. The woman's retreating figure faded into the distance. The lesson she had failed to learn would linger with her, a bitter reminder of misplaced authority. The crowd began to disperse. And the lake regained its peaceful rhythm. The man picked up his rod again, casting the line with careful precision. The water embraced it, calm, still, reflective. The morning belonged to him. Calm had won. Truth had won. And the lake, like always, remained impartial. A silent witness to the power of patience and the inevitability of justice. The lake was calm again. The morning sunlight reflected off the gentle ripples, sparkling like tiny diamonds. But the air still carried tension, thick and palpable, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The woman stood a few steps away from the fisherman, her phone still recording, her chest heaving. She had thought she held all the power, that the arrival of the ranger would seal her victory. But now, she realized something had shifted. Her confidence was slipping, dissolving into doubt and fear. The ranger's voice cut through the air, calm yet commanding. Ma'am, he said, looking directly at her. "I need you to listen carefully." Her head jerked up. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The voice she had relied on to command others now faltered. "You stopped this man without legal reason," the ranger continued. "You shouted at him. You recorded him. You made false claims to authorities." Her hands trembled slightly. She swallowed hard. I was protecting the community," she whispered. The ranger's eyes never wavered. "Protecting the community does not give you the right to harass someone who is following the law," he said firmly. "You cannot enforce HOA rules on public land." The woman's shoulders slumped. Her arms, once crossed in authority, hung loosely at her sides. Her voice shook as she tried to speak again. I didn't know." The ranger shook his head slowly. "Not knowing the law is not an excuse," he said. "You must step back and leave him alone." The small crowd around them was silent, watching intently. Whispers floated through the air, soft but certain. "He's shutting her down. She can't argue with him." Finally, someone enforcing the law. The fisherman remained seated, calm and quiet. He did not raise his voice. He did not celebrate. He simply observed, his patience still intact. The ranger took a step closer, his presence authoritative yet measured. "If you continue to harass this man," he said, "you could face fines or legal consequences for disorderly conduct and false reporting." The woman's face went pale. Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted toward the crowd. Their expressions were not supportive, they were judging, recording, witnessing the unraveling of her authority. You can't do this," she stammered, her voice barely audible. I am HOA. I have authority." The ranger's gaze was steady, unyielding. "Authority must follow the law," he said calmly but firmly. "Your title does not give you the right to harass someone who is legally allowed to be here." The woman's hands went to her face briefly, as if to shield herself from the truth. Her chest heaved with a mix of anger, fear, and humiliation. She looked at the fisherman, who remained composed, almost serene. He did not gloat. He did not move aggressively. He simply stayed calm, letting the truth speak louder than any shout or phone recording. The ranger turned to him. "You may continue fishing," he said politely. The man nodded slowly. "Thank you," he replied softly, his voice carrying no triumph, only quiet relief. The woman took a step back, her hands dropping from her face. She glanced at the phones pointed at her, recording every flinch, every misstep. Her smile, the confident, proud smile she had worn like armor, was gone. Her steps were slower now, uncertain, each one heavier than the last. The crowd's whispers grew. Some nodded in approval at the ranger's fair but firm enforcement. Some shook their heads, murmuring about the woman's arrogance. Her words, once loud and commanding, had no power here. The ranger watched her retreat, ensuring she understood the seriousness of the situation. "She must leave now," he said to the crowd, quietly but clearly. She will not interfere with him again. Her retreat was slow, deliberate, but her confidence was completely gone. The authority she had wielded so loudly now lay shattered behind her. Her footsteps faded into the distance, swallowed by the calm of the morning. The lake, once a battleground of shouting and tension, returned to its quiet state. The sunlight shimmered on the water. The birds returned to their branches, chirping softly. Even the breeze seemed gentler, as if approving of the restoration of order. The fisherman adjusted his chair. He picked up his fishing rod again. The line touched the water with a soft splash. His movements were slow, precise, careful. The ranger took one last look at the scene. "Some people believe shouting and titles give them power," he said softly. "But patience, calmness, and understanding the law, these are what truly protect you." The man smiled faintly. "I just wanted to fish," he said. The ranger nodded, satisfied. He returned to his truck. The engine hummed as he drove away. The tires crunched over the gravel, leaving the lake peaceful once more. The woman's figure was gone, swallowed by the trees and the morning mist. The lesson she had failed to learn would linger with her, bitter and undeniable. Authority without law is empty. Power without reason is fragile. The fisherman cast his line once more. The lake embraced it, calm and indifferent. Ripples shimmered in the sunlight. The water reflected the world as it was, quiet, still, and fair. The crowd began to disperse. The whispers faded. The drama had ended. Patience had won. Law had prevailed. Calm had outlasted anger. The fisherman leaned forward slightly, feeling a gentle tug on his line. He smiled faintly. The morning belonged to him. The lake remained a witness to truth and justice. And somewhere, far away, the woman would remember this day, the day her authority was dismantled. The day calm and law overcame arrogance and false power. The lake lay still, almost as if it were holding its breath. The sun glimmered on the water, sending golden ripples dancing across the surface. Birds returned to the branches, chirping softly, as if nothing had happened. The woman was gone. Her heels had clicked away from the scene. Her phone was tucked into her pocket, the screen dark. Her shoulders drooped, the fire of confidence and authority that had burned so brightly was now extinguished. The crowd that had once watched her with cautious curiosity now dispersed, whispers fading with every step she took. The fisherman remained seated, his line resting gently on the water. He did not smile broadly. He did not boast. He simply exhaled, slowly, feeling the calm that had been denied to him moments ago. He had waited. He had stayed calm. And the lake, impartial and vast, had borne witness. The ranger had gone. His truck disappeared down the road, leaving only the soft hum of tires on gravel and the distant echo of his authoritative words. Patience, calmness, and understanding the law, these are what truly protect you. The man leaned back slightly in his chair, letting the breeze wash over him. The water rippled gently as he adjusted his rod. A small tug on the line caused him to focus, his hands moving with deliberate precision. This was his moment of quiet victory. No shouts. No threats. No false authority. Just peace, earned and maintained. The morning sun climbed higher, casting warm light across the lake. The fisherman looked around. The small crowd had thinned, leaving only a few curious onlookers who nodded appreciatively. Some whispered, "Calm always wins." Others murmured, "Patience is stronger than power." The lesson had been learned. Far off in the trees, a faint rustle indicated the woman's presence was gone entirely. No dramatic gestures. No angry muttering. She had retreated, leaving the lake and its rightful calm undisturbed. Authority that lacked law and reason could not hold in the face of truth. Power built on anger and arrogance was fragile, and today it had crumbled. The fisherman cast his line again, watching the lure land softly on the water. He adjusted his hat, shielding his eyes from the sun. The breeze carried the scent of water and earth, filling his lungs with quiet satisfaction. He had not sought confrontation. He had only sought peace. And he had found it. The few spectators who remained moved closer, drawn by the calm energy surrounding him. One or two nodded respectfully, whispering about the strength it took to remain silent in the face of chaos. The fisherman did not respond. He simply continued, letting his actions, steady, patient, composed, speak louder than any words could. The lake reflected the sky, a mirror of calm and clarity. Ripples shimmered across its surface, catching the light like 1,000 tiny diamonds. The fisherman felt the gentle pull on his line again and leaned forward slightly, anticipation threading through his calm demeanor. No tension of confrontation lingered here now. Only the thrill of patience rewarded. The wind moved softly, carrying the faint scent of trees and earth across the water. The fisherman cast once more, the line slicing the air with a soft whisper. It landed perfectly. The world seemed to pause around him. The chaotic morning, the shouting, the false authority, and the fear, all of it had faded into silence. In the distance, the last figures of the crowd were leaving, whispers of the morning's lesson trailing behind them. The fisherman remained, alone but not lonely. The lake stretched wide and peaceful before him. Sunlight sparkled, the breeze stirred ripples, and birds sang from the trees. Everything had returned to balance. He leaned back, eyes scanning the still water. No one challenged him now. No one shouted. The calm he had maintained, the patience he had held, had become his shield. The lake reflected more than sunlight, it reflected justice, fairness, and quiet strength. Somewhere, far away, the woman would remember this day. The memory of authority dismantled, of confidence lost, would stay with her. Titles and loud voices cannot enforce power when law and patience stand firm. Anger cannot defeat calm. False authority cannot override truth. The fisherman felt a tug on his line. He leaned forward, hand steady, heart calm. The gentle pull reminded him why he had come. Not for confrontation. Not for drama. For the simple, quiet joy of fishing. The lake remained still around him, impartial and patient, just as he had been. His calmness had protected him. His patience had rewarded him. The truth had prevailed. He smiled faintly, leaning back in his chair. The morning had passed, full of drama and tension, but now it belonged entirely to peace. No one interfered. No one challenged. No one could. The sun climbed higher. Birds flew across the sky. The wind rustled the leaves. The fisherman cast his line one last time. The ripple spread across the lake. The water reflected the quiet glory of patience rewarded. And somewhere, far away, the lesson lingered. Calm always wins. Law always holds. Truth always surfaces. And the lake remained, silent and eternal, a witness to it all. The fisherman continued, serene, victorious, and unshaken.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it.